Okay, so welcome to a series of videos on Project 2, Part B. In this one, I'm going to show you how to update your site drawings, the plan in two sections to incorporate your pavilion designs, as well as the drawings that you'll be doing at a larger scale um, to represent those designs. So I'm going to work based off of a design from a student completed last year. And I'm going to kind of basically try and work a little bit from the model, kind of developing the ideas and representing, more or less representing this drawing. And I'll talk more about that as I go along. So I've kind of just laid out the elements of this design here on our site. This is the same site from the first part of this assignment. And I guess one of the things that we want to talk about here is, first of all, we're going to kind of incorporate this into the larger scale drawings. And at that scale, we don't need to represent a whole lot. So what I'm going to do first is kind of represent those things that need to exist at this scale in this drawing. And in order to do that, I'll just show some of the techniques used for that right here. So basically, I want to talk about, number one, we want to show like the approach to the design at this scale, right? Because context should show us kind of how someone arrives to the site, how they move across, and then also then how they arrive to your project. Also at this scale of context, we want to be looking at kind of orientation relative to important site features. Obviously, we're here in this kind of bosque area. We're between kind of the path, which is higher up in the landscape, and kind of the wash area, which leads out into the river. So the first thing I want to do is I want to add the path. And of course, this should be considered as part of your design, but I just want to kind of illustrate a couple points about that. So I'm going to kind of imagine that someone is approaching the project from here. Of course, they can come down in here too, but I want to actually outline a path for myself there. I'm going to start from this. You can see in that aerial image, that's where the railing is. I'm going to start from kind of further back here. It seems like we have kind of a natural path right there. And I'm just going to draw a line straight out from the existing path, kind of perpendicular. And that'll be our kind of departure point. The other thing I want to mention here quickly is you can see we have those contour lines that are kind of showing the drop off from the height of the bicycle path down towards the pavilion. And what I want to do for that is I'm going to start about midway between where the bike path is and that first contour. Because even though it's close, the next contour up's a little further back. So anyway, so what I want to do is I'm looking down here. Watch my cursor. I'm looking down here in the Rhino window, and I'm using that as a reference to kind of see just quickly how long my line's going to be. And the reason for doing that is I know that I have 2-foot contours. In other words, there's 2 feet of elevation change between one contour and the next. And I know that I want about 20 feet of ramp, between 12 and 20 feet of ramp between every foot of elevation change, right? That's our ADA ratio. I'm going to go just for something between, because it's a 2-foot drop, I'll just assume it's a 2-foot drop from the path. I'm going to go for something between, 24 and 40 feet. I'll just do like 30. Good. So you could do like a switchback if you wanted to. I'm just outlining here. Or what I might actually do is just start it again a little further back. About 30 feet. That's about right. Just to kind of give ourselves a realistic estimate of what that ramp would look like. And we could even actually start it further back if we wanted to. I'm not going to worry too much about that. Then I'm going to just trim these guys quickly. join them. I'll get rid of this. That's our little path. I'm going to rebuild it. That's one way to kind of smooth it out like we did with our contour lines. I would add a couple more points to kind of a little more realistic. There we go. Okay, and then obviously we could take that line. I'm going to go offset, and we need to be about 5 feet wide. Well, actually, that's not true, is it? I'm going to go 4 feet, so I'll go 2. And I'm also going to hit that option both sides. Actually, let's try a little bit wide. There we go. Okay. So 3 feet overall, 1.5 to each side. Okay, great. So there's our path kind of outlined there. And you can see it's meeting up down there, and we'll resolve that stuff here in a second. The other thing I wanted to do here is I'll just clean this up. So to extend that line up to where the bicycle path is, I'll use the command extend. And if I do that without any lines selected, it'll ask me what I want to use as a boundary object. I can path, press enter. What do I want to extend? It's that line. You can see it'll just kind of naturally continue that line until it hits the path. And then I just trimmed the loose end there. Okay, so there's one thing that we want to show, the scale. The other thing that I would want to show at this scale too, and maybe we can experiment with this, but I would want to show kind of what the what areas here are kind of modified and what areas are just kind of existing ground. So I'll also outline that for myself. So the other thing I wanted to mention, obviously you can see my site orientation here is kind of dictated really by like what's going on around that location. So I'm kind of oriented here to this path, a little bit oriented to landscape, but so a couple things I can do to kind of draw at that angle. One of those things is going to be to use what's called a construction plane or a C-plane. I'm going to type C-plane in the command line. See, by default I have my orthogonal X and Y. Now I've already kind of rotated myself to the angle I want. So I'm sorry, I don't want to do that. What I want to do, I'm going to hit 3-point here. I'm going to orient myself to the object. And if I turn off, you can see there's my grid, there's my orientation plane. I can also open this panel. It's called the named C-planes panel. And since I have just set this panel up, sorry, it's just set the C-plane up, I'll hit save. Call that my one matter. Okay. And so basically, every time you reset your viewport, you'll notice that your C-plane will reset, right? So I just re-entered top view. Obviously, my C-plane went back to just normal X and Y. All I got to do is in the named C-plane panel, hit that button, and it'll switch me back. So now whenever I'm working, I'm already oriented to that plane, holding shift right now to snap to ortho. And you can see every line that I draw is kind of oriented along that plane. So I'm going to go ahead and add in the outline that just kind of shows, like, you know, where the hardscaping or decking or whatever it is goes and where the other stuff goes. And hide these guys really quick. Get them out of my way. All right. I'm going to use the polyline tool. I'm just going to go like this. Again, I got my C-plane on there. Outline. Oops. So like I said, I can hit tab command line to kind of snap myself in there to that direction. Up to the next point. And we may actually want this to shift a little bit beyond just exactly. It just depends on your design, but you may want this to shift kind of beyond exactly the character. Anyway, so whatever the nature of that kind of outline is, there you go. And that gives us, a lighter line to kind of delineate the space where your pavilion goes, as well as something, a hatch to show a difference in ground. And I'm going to add a little space here. And we may need a larger space in that. I'll adjust. Using scale 1D to kind of adjust that guy. Okay. And that should pretty much work for incorporating the pavilion into the site. I guess I would also want to kind of resolve this. And if you tend to adjust or add planting, we would want to add that as well. But the other thing we would need to do now is kind of indicate how our pavilion kind of sits in the landscape in the site sections. So there's a couple ways we could do that. What we want to do is keep, for the site sections, we're going to keep the same orientation that we have for that we've already drawn. So we're going to make minimal adjustments kind of as needed. What I'm looking at here actually is I've kind of drawn my site section beyond where that pavilion would actually go, and that's okay. So what I might want to do is flip the direction I'm looking. Well, I have two options. I could just redraw my section so it goes through my pavilion, or is in front of my pavilion, or I could flip the orientation of this guy, get rid of the background stuff. I wouldn't be seeing anything. Okay? In other words, let me just show you what I'm doing here. And so for this, I want to actually be in world seaplane. That'll be the orientation. I'm going to mirror this whole section across section cut line. Then I'm going to type in the option select last. Go. That way I could drag it down here if I wanted to. Right, so I have a bunch of stuff overlapping there. Move it out of the way. Stuff is obviously not in my drawing anymore. I can get rid of it. Okay, and then I would do the same thing like I did before. I'm going to select my section cut line, type in extend, all my contour or my construction lines over there. Okay, so I could basically draw use the same section cut and then draw looking in the other direction, right? I would see a different set of trees. I would see obviously my pavilion structure, and I would see whatever details exist on the site looking in the opposite direction. That's one option. What I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to draw this section really quick because I think it's more important in this case maybe to show it looking towards the north. That's towards the river. So anyway, so I'm going to just delete this section. I'll delete all these construction lines. I'll move this guy down. So I could choose, at this point I'm kind of choosing where to place section. So I could choose to kind of cut through, well, I could choose to cut through my pavilion. I could choose to cut through, the roofed in areas or not. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to throw this guy right in front. And just like before, I'm going to copy this line up and use that as the baseline for my site section. And I'll layer, and I'll draw some construction lines here. And just like Or I'm going to copy that construction line to everywhere it intersects. Site contour. And I'm just going to interpolate from there. And so, let's see, low point. So I'm going to start offsetting this line. I go 2 feet. Do it a few times. You can also, once you've offset it once, you can just copy it, and then use the previous line. It's 2 feet apart already. There. Grabbing that point and moving it up. Trim the excess. Okay. So this, I don't honestly know whether this side is lower or this side. I'm just going to start here. Yep. So perhaps we also want to, I'm just going to move these up because we want to have some thickness, below the lowest point intersection showing the ground. I'm going to start from this point, extend these lines, right, because our ground plane would go through that. Oops. Trimming. I'm just keeping the layers where I know. Stepping up. I'm going to finish the rest of this real quick. Okay, so now I've drawn out all the layers and kind of where they would go. I'm going to use my heavier line weight and draw the kind of round. And I'm just going to draw enough points to kind of remain between the layers where I need to. Throw this lower back. Make it gradual. At that point, I just pull Z to go back one. Vector to the edge of my section. There we go. That's my section cut line. And obviously, I'd want to continue that around the outline. That it would look right. Section going on here. Lost where we had it. Go. That's the thicker line, and we can still see the section lines. I would be inclined to that section cut line and just trim away the extension. That's not really help us understand it. Okay. So there we have our ground plane established. And then we obviously need to drop in our pavilion. I'm going to go back to my construction lines. I'm going to kind of outline important points. Obviously, one thing that's going to be good to show is at what level certain things are happening. We'll just start with stuff in front, obviously. That'll hide what's behind, and we'll just work our way back. Draw a bunch of lines up. Let's start with these 3 points, right? So this is kind of a deck area. This is a wall, what's going to become a wall and a roof, like a tilted up roof. Now, I'm going to, well, actually I can do this a couple different ways. What I'm going to do to make it easy on myself is this line here is 12 feet. I'm going to use a 30-degree roof pitch. So in order to draw that, I'm going to add together the height of my wall. I'm just going to draw a really quick section to reference it myself. I draw this line, 8-foot tall wall. That's 12 feet across. So that represents the wall and the depth of the roof. And if I draw another line just some distance and rotate it 30 degrees, this other way, that's kind of what my oops. That's kind of like what this thing would look like if I was looking at it directly on, right? So I can do a couple things with this. To make my life easy, I'm actually just gonna copy it each time I want to use it to show what my roof will look like. And so I selected it, I lined it up to one corner. I'm going to scale 1D it, holding Shift, and then I'm holding Tab. Snap to the other end. That's kind of what it would look like foreshortened at that angle. That's right there. I didn't draw a construction line, but that's what that would look like. So we'd see it hit there, right? If it was foreshortened. Again, the height of it doesn't change, just what the angle looks like, right? So that's kind of a shortcut, is just to take what that thing would look like directly on and scale 1D it to the dimension. I'll do the same over here, I'll show it again. But anyway, and then I'm also going to draw the roof deck, I'm sorry, the floor, the decking. And remember, we're not actually cutting through right where this thing is, we're looking beyond the cut where this thing is. So I kind of have two options. This is the back corner of my deck. I could either show it kind of as embedded into the ground, right? In which case we would just see the line where the decking and the walls intersect the ground beyond the section cut. And if I wanted to draw it as floating above, which is what I think I'll do, I'm going to go to this highest point right here, way up there, line straight out. Oh, that line right there. Well, actually, all the way out here, really. Okay, that's my floor. I'm going to change that there real quick. My wall. Okay, that's the other end of that wall. I'm going to just copy it over. Oh, so first of all, it should be sitting on the deck, right? Not sitting on the ground. And I'm going to copy it over. So. And I would close the outline kind of, show the crease as a lighter line weight, where the wall folds into the roof, etc. Right, now I'm going to do the same trick for this one, which is tilting back the other way. You'll see what I mean in a second. So it looks like this, right? If we're looking at it this way, we're looking in this direction. At this roof piece, it looks like that, right? Except that, as you can see, it's 24 feet in depth. So I'm going to draw a line offset 24. Again, I don't want to change the roof pitch or the roof angle. I just want to make it longer, deeper, right? So I'll just use that line that I offset. These are 24, maybe a much taller roof, you can see. And then I'll copy it here to where it would be. And we know that it extends to this line. I'm going to scale this guy back until it hits this line. So scale 1D. well, actually, there's another way you can do it. You could scale 1D. You could also just select this point, move it. As long as I'm moving it straight, that should be the accurate angle. And then let's see, where would the back of that guy show up? Here. Yeah, on this. Darker line. Awesome. And obviously we wouldn't see this. Oops. See that part because this would be in front of it. Now at the scale, you could choose to show thickness if you wanted to, but I don't know that it would be that important, especially because, with some of these some of these darker line weights, we're not going to really be able to distinguish. So there you see with that level of thickness, we're kind of really getting a good sense of what's going on there. And we could show how this decking meets the ground if we wanted to. Either it comes into the ground and we see this front corners, or it's kind of floating above the ground. In case we could map out a couple of points where we want to show it down to the ground, right here and right here. This. Remember, it's not actually hitting the ground, right? Where the section cut is, it's behind our view. Fine, so we show it till it comes down and hits the ground plane. Okay, and then I would also want to do the same with all these other like structures. This one is 12 feet. Oops. I would map out where they are just so I know. I'm just going to make a copy of this. Did I do that right? 12 feet. Construction lines. Copy. And remember, we also have that big tree that we're going to show. Goes to and this is actually an enclosed part of the project. Differently. So we would see this as a corner. We wouldn't see kind of into that space. And then obviously you want to draw out like what this guy would look like and that guy would look like in case the roof is peeking up over these guys. You want to incorporate that tree in the center, so we trim away, where we don't see it because this guy. Anyway, so I'll let you guys kind of wrap up with those details, and I'll show you what it should look like in the next video.